وعملا وفقها في الدين يا رب العالمين. وفقنا للعمل بما يرضيك عنا وإلى غيرك لا تكلنا. افتح أقفال قلوبنا بذكرك وألهمنا شكرك واجعلنا من أهل معرفتك ولا تجعلنا من الغافلين. آمين. Alhamdulillah, welcome back. We've been a bit on holiday, sort of, not really a holiday, but it was Ramadan, which is spiritual holiday if you want. Inshallah, we are back now with a new topic. We have, alhamdulillah, managed to finish the old topic, which is Al-Ghazali, the 40 principles of Islam, or Al-Arba'in fi Usul al-Din, rahimahullah. And now we will start a new topic, which is fiqh topic. I know it's a heavy topic for many of you, but nevertheless, inshallah, we'll have a selective reading from the book of Imam Mula Ali Qari, rahimahullah ta'ala. So the book is called Fath Bab al Inaya, Sharh al-Nuqaya. Fath Bab al Inaya is the commentary of Mula Ali Qari, which is a 10th century Hijri commentary on a Hanafi book. So why in particular this book? There's a long story. I'll take you through this story. It's a very dear story to my heart. In the 90s, 1990, when we came back from studying in Syria. So we spent around 4 years in Syria studying in the classical circles with our teachers and shuyukh, in the mosques, in their houses and so on. And we've been as well to the Sharia college in Damascus. And alhamdulillah, it was the best days of my life. So we met many beautiful souls, scholars and students of knowledge seekers, friends, you name it. So when we came back, of course, we still have our teachers in Lebanon. One of the very best teachers whom we got in Lebanon, rahimahullah, Shaykh Khalil al-Mais. Shaykh Khalil is a very dynamic person, rahimahullah, and he is a very full of energy and a very, as well, critical reader. And he reads a lot. He is probably the most sheikh whom I met who reads a lot. So he's, mashallah, encyclopedia in his readings, and he always engaged in reading. So he mentioned once to us the book of Imam Mula Ali Qari. And because he was supervising Al-Azhar Lebanon Academy, if you want, so they have 4 years for the student to study, which is, it's like college. So they have 4 years before the university, and then they start the university. So these 4 years, they teach them fiqh, and they have a different book they use to teach. So Shaykh Khalil said, why don't you work? At that time, we had our office in Lebanon, which is the first office, independent private office, dedicated to printing manuscripts, editing and verifying, which we call it in Arabic tahqiq. So myself, my brother, we established this office with as well plenty of friends from knowledge seekers and so on. So we were between 5 to 10 or 15, depends on the season. So at least we have 5 people in the office working on these books. So one of the first books which we have started with was Mulla Ali's book, Mula Ali Qari's book in Sciences of Hadith. شرح نخبة الفكر. So نخبة الفكر, Mulla Ali commented on نخبة الفكر. نخبة الفكر in the Sciences of Hadith, it's like the classical text in Mustalah al-Hadith. For all knowledge seekers in Hadith, they have to read نخبة الفكر by Mulla Ali. Sorry, by Ibn Hajar. So Mulla Ali came and he made his commentary on Ibn Hajar al-Asqalani's text. I know it's Chinese to some of you, what I'm saying now, but it's good to learn some new names and new sciences and so on. So this was our first book, which was a huge book, huge work. It took us around 3 years to finish it with the team which we have and so on. Alhamdulillah, we were pleased to do that. And then we visited our Shaykh Khalil al-Mays, rahimahullah. We gave him a gift of our first child, if you want, our first book, which we published. And he said, Mulla Ali has the book in fiqh. Why don't you work on it? And we know the book, but working on the book is so difficult. And it's a huge task. We said, okay, let's see. We don't have the manuscripts. We don't have the complete book. All what we have is 1/10 of the book, which Shaykh Abdul Fattah Abu Ghudda, rahimahullah, published in very old days, in the 60s or early 70s or something. So we have just 1/10 of the book, which is Kitab al-Tahara, from a huge book. So we started searching and we said, if Allah wants this to happen, he'll facilitate the means. It wasn't like today, you just type into the internet and you find the manuscripts under your fingerprints. No, it wasn't. You have to go and search manually for the book in the libraries and those who has access to the manuscripts and so on. And if you were to find that, you need to apply and ask for permission to photocopy the book, or to have microfilm at that time, or microchips at that time, or microfilms, or something along these lines. So it wasn't that easy. To cut a long story short, we have a Turkish friend whom we were studying with in Syria, because we have many Turkish students in Syria studying at that time. So we asked him, can you please find us this book in one of the main libraries? Because in Turkey, they have huge libraries full of manuscripts. So please, can you find us this book, Fath Bab al Inaya? We find us a manuscript for this book. He said, okay. We waited 1, 2, 3, 4 months, nothing. 6 months, nothing. 7, 8. Towards the 8th month, he sent us the reply and he said, I did find the book and this is the microfilm of the book. And we said, that's it. This is the first signal, then we should publish the book. We went through the microfilm. It wasn't that great, but it's better than nothing. Then I've made the trip for Hajj. And in Medina, they have plenty of libraries there and bookshops and so on. So we went to the bookshops and we started searching for the book of Mula Ali Qari, Fath Bab al Inaya. And we did find one copy, only one copy. It wasn't a famous book. Only one copy, the Karachi copy. Very huge one. It's like this, very big, 2 volumes, very old writing, and you barely can read it. We were so pleased with it. We bought one copy, which is the only copy which they have, and we said, here you go. Allah is opening the way. So we made istikhara. We started working on the book, and it was a very tough journey for 3 years again, sort of And we have to finish the book by 1993 because the Sheikh, no, we started 1993. The Sheikh wants to teach the book 1996, 97. So we said, okay, we have to finish the book. We have 3 years. We started working on the book, 3 huge volumes. It could have been 5 volumes, but we tried to minimize as much as possible the expenses. And this is how we started this journey with the book. And alhamdulillah, we printed the book, and Sheikh Khalil made the introduction for the book. And he fulfilled his promise. He took the book and he made the book the textbook for Al-Azhar at that time. And they started teaching the book. Alhamdulillah. I'm not saying it's a perfect work, but it was the first thing that been published in a new way, with many extra things that been done to the book. Number one, we reprinted the book beautifully. We made a comparison between the manuscript and the microfilm. We made the comparison between the Karachi printed book, as well as the essence and the sources of the book, where Mulla Ali says this has been narrated in this book or that book. So we'll go, and this what made it very difficult as well. Mulla Ali rahimahullah is very encyclopedic in his knowledge as well. He's not only a faqih, he's a qari, he's with 10 different recitation. He's a theologian, he's a muhaddith, he's calligraphy. In calligraphy, he's beautiful handwriting. And he was a very, very humble person, rahimahullah, very zahid, if you want. When you read his biography, they described him as a zahid person. He stayed single all his life, no children, no wife, no responsibility. So he was fully focused on knowledge, rahimahullah ta'ala. And he used to earn his living from writing 2 mushaf every year with his beautiful handwriting. And he learned this in Mecca, actually. He's not from Mecca originally. Mula Ali Qari, rahimahullah. His name is not Mula Ali Qari. His name is Ali bin Sultan Muhammad al-Qari. So he's known as Mulla because this title is for the scholar, as we say today, Sheikh. Yes, but Mulla, it's somebody who has a very supreme understanding of the Sharia, if you want, and he's very knowledgeable person. Rahimahullah, we don't have an accurate sources about his date of birth, but nearly he was born, rahimahullah ta'ala, in 930-ish Hijri. He passed away 1014 Hijri, rahimahullah ta'ala. So originally, he's been born from in Herat, which is in Afghanistan at the moment. At that time, it was not Afghanistan. So he's from that area, and he's as well multi-talented in languages, in linguistics, in fiqh, in usul. And so he left around 150 books, rahimahullah ta'ala. He landed in his country and he escaped from his country because of the fitna of Ismail al-Safawi at that time, where he killed many people and persecuted many people. So he left for Mecca, and he stayed in Mecca almost all his life. And he wrote all his books, actually, in Mecca, rahimahullah ta'ala. And this was a common practice, by the way. People go and do residency in Mecca. And we call it in Arabic mujawir. Mujawir, it means he's a resident of Mecca. Or it might be a resident of Medina. Yes. So rahimahullah ta'ala, he was focused on writing, learning, teaching. As well, I told you that he used to write 2 copies of the Quran, and he will sell with his beautiful calligraphy, and he will write on the margin of this copy the qira'at and some explanation of the words as well, and he will sell it. This copy he will use to spend on himself. The second copy he will sell and donate it as sadaqah. Although he's, subhanAllah, not well off, but this is his practice every year. 2 copies, 1 for his expenses, 1 for sadaqah. Rahimahullah. And so he wrote as well in spirituality and tasawwuf, but not the airy-fairy tasawwuf, if you want. Rahimahullah ta'ala. He was very into Quran and Sunnah. And as well, he was a Hanafi faqih, but not very restricted into Hanafi school. We'll see sometimes he will just go with the dalil more than just it is Hanafi or not Hanafi. So he will rely on the evidences rather than his school. Rahimahullah ta'ala. So he left a huge legacy, rahimahullah, in theology and usul al-fiqh, in fiqh, 20 books almost, in fara'id, in tafsir, in qira'at, sirah and shama'il, in biographies, tarajum, which we call linguistics, and as well mawa'idh, which is reminders and so on, rahimahullah. One of the great huge books which he has is Mirqat al-Mafatih. Mirqat al-Mafatih, as well, we have another story for another day with Mirqat al-Mafatih. He made a commentary on Mishkat al-Masabih. Mishkat al-Masabih is the Ahadith al-Ahkam in the Hanafi school, if you want. Ahadith al-Ahkam, the Hadith of rulings. So he commented on this 2 volumes, the original book, Mishkat, in 10 volumes. And these 10 volumes being printed in probably now 25 volumes, give or take, depends on the publisher. So he is a very, mashallah, encyclopedic person. In Shama'il, he wrote 2 huge volumes on Shama'il al-Tirmidhi, commentary from him. Shifa as well, he made a commentary on Shifa Qadi Iyad. As well as he made this very book, which is our book, inshallah. Definitely, I'm not going to read every single word in the book, but it will be a selective reading, inshallah ta'ala, from the book. The book called Fath Bab al Inaya, Sharh al-Nuqaya. For those who wants to know more about this, al-Nuqaya is a textbook in the Hanafi. So we have 3 levels here, just to make it easy for you to understand what's going on. So the original, very original book, which is like the most important book in the Hanafi school across the board, is the book of Imam al-Marghinani. Marghinani, rahimahullah, again, he's a legend in knowledge and sciences and fiqh and so on. Burhan al-Din al-Marghinani, 500 Hijri, he was born, 511 He passed away 593. So Al-Hidayah is the original book. And almost all the books after the 500 Hijri relied on Al-Marghinani's book, Al-Hidayah. I'm pretty sure you came across Al-Hidayah. We have different translations of Al-Hidayah. It's a very famous and reliable book in the Hanafi school. So Al-Marghinani wrote this book, and the scholars started commenting and summarizing this, that, and the other for this book because of its importance. So one of the very reliable summaries is An-Nuqaya. So An-Nuqaya is a summary of the summary, if you want. So Imam Mula Ali Qari took An-Nuqaya, which is the summary of Al-Wiqaya. So Al-Hidayah first, then Wiqaya second, the summary of Al-Hidayah, then An-Nuqaya, which is the summary of the summary. So Imam Mula Ali Qari took An-Nuqaya and commented on it. So An-Nuqaya is relying on Al-Wiqaya, which is in the Hanafi school, one of the 4 reliable texts in the Hanafi school. Not every text in any school is reliable. You have plenty of texts, but you might have 2 or 3 or 4 reliable texts in the Hanafi school or the Shafi'i school and so on, and Maliki and Hanbali. So in the Hanafi school, we have around 4. Al-Mukhtar, one of it, Majma' al-Bayan, the second, and we have some differences regarding which one is more reliable. Is it the Nuqaya or Wiqaya? We have some discussion here among the scholars. But nevertheless, Imam Mula Ali Qari, he took this book, An-Nuqaya, and commented on it, which is a very complete text in the Hanafi school, because sometimes you have a fiqh text, but it's not a complete text, i.e. from A to Z in fiqh. You might have from A to, for instance, you have some books only related to ibadah, like you have tahara, yes, you have salah, siyam, zakah, and hajj, that's it. So we have some books like this, like Maraq al-Falah, for instance. It's not in everything in fiqh, it's just dedicated to the ibadat only, but not this text. This text, it talks about almost all the topics of fiqh, all topics of fiqh. And these topics can be between 30 to 40 topics in fiqh. Depends on the book, depends on the details, and sometimes can even go to 60 topics. Yes, and I don't want to go through the contents, but it's plenty to cover. So we will, inshallah ta'ala, try our best to go through everything that is relevant to us in each of these chapters in the book. So we have so far in this book, we have 51 chapters, 51 chapters divided into 3 volumes. It's a long journey, inshallah. If we were to live, we will try to finish this book, inshallah ta'ala. So Mula Ali Qari, rahimahullah ta'ala, his style, he will come to the book. So Nuqaya, I'm reading from the Arabic. Nuqaya is on the top, and his commentary is underneath. So this is a very common practice among the scholars. So they put the original text, which they want to explain, on the top, and they will do their commentary underneath. So Mula Ali rahimahullah put the text like this and on the top, and then he will go through the commentary. The commentary, the beauty of the commentary, why did Shaykh Khalil al-Mays rahimahullah asked us to publish this book and make it available? As he said, the beauty of this book, Mulla Ali is a muhaddith. Yes. So he's not just a faqih. So he's a faqih and a muhaddith. So he combined between fiqh and hadith. And this is so important. So he will bring the matter and then discuss it and then bring the evidences. So the evidence for this matter is this hadith or this statement from this companion or this practice from that companion or the like of it. Not only this, the other thing which is so beautiful, of course, he will bring the evidences that the Hanafi school relied on. So from the Hanafi perspective, this is the evidence for this opinion in the Hanafi school. And he will open the discussion between the Hanafi school and other schools. And he will say, yes, this is the Hanafi school and this is the evidence in the Hanafi school. But nevertheless, let's see, we have, for instance, in the Shafi'i, they use this other hadith and they have a different opinion. And the Maliki, it has this different hadith, or this is how they understood the hadith. And in the Hanbali school, we have this opinion, and so on and so forth. And it's comparative jurisprudence. And I used to use this book as well in my teaching in the Sharia College in Beirut, and the Islamic University. So it's a very beautiful book. It takes you through a very interesting discussion between different schools and where is it coming from and their evidences, and then he will show you what is more reliable. So he will say, yes, but this evidence is not very reliable and this evidence is much better. So accordingly, we follow this opinion. We follow this opinion because of this evidence. So it trains the student and the knowledge seekers to understand where these rulings coming from. So it's not just from the faqih's opinion. Now, faqih, he relies on the Quran and the Sunnah and the methodology behind deducing rules and rulings and so on and so forth. So it's more into a discussion than just dictation. That do this, do this, do this. No, it shows you, yes, the ruling is this because of this evidence and derives from this and so on and so forth. So we see this a lot in the book. And because Mulla Ali as well, rahimahullah ta'ala, he has a very sharp memory. So many times he will write the hadith from his memory. Yes. And write the statement of this or that scholar from his memory. And this made it very difficult for us to find the precise words. So because if you are searching in, not as today, you do the word search, you find any relevant stuff related to that. It wasn't like this. We need manually to search for the hadith in the indexes of the hadith. There's an index as well. It's a long journey anyway. So it was so difficult to find and link and reference these opinions or references and hadith and so on and so forth. Well, alhamdulillah, it was a very useful journey. So Mulla Ali rahimahullah ta'ala will comment on many things as well. And he has a critical mind. He will not be convinced easily. Yes, because it's in the Hanafi school or somebody said this in the Hanafi school, he will just submit. No, he's a very critical thinker, rahimahullah. So he will discuss it and check it and twist it and try to challenge it until he's convinced, or he might not be convinced, and he will reject it, which you will not find this a lot in the fiqh books. But Mulla Ali, he has this mentality, rahimahullah. Probably, definitely, you will find this as well in Hashiyat ibn Abidin, rahimahullah ta'ala, in the Hanafi school as well, which is the most reliable text in the Hanafi school, and the biggest, not the biggest, one of the biggest books in the Hanafi school is the commentary of Ibn Abidin on Hashiyah. رد المحتار على الدر المختار, which is known in Arabic. So nevertheless, we might have something in this book as well. Sometimes there's no infallibility for any writer. So you might have something here, something there. That's very normal in any book, actually. And he never claimed that he is immune against any mistake or anything. Inshallah, we might comment on some of these issues, which are not many. We will not find that many issues in the book. Nevertheless, it's mashallah, a very beautiful book. I'll do my best, inshallah, to read through the book first, the relevant information to us, because again, there are some irrelevant stuff. It was suitable for the 10th century. It's not anymore Hijri. It's not anymore suitable for the 15th century Hijri now, almost. So I'll just be choosing what is relevant. And when it's suitable, go through comparative discussion, just to give you a flavor. Where did it come from, and what was the process and the thinking behind this, and so on. And sometimes we have new issues related to this topic or that topic. I'll be borrowing this from different Sharia councils and new fatwas and so on related to new topics, for instance, on that front. When it comes later, inshallah, to the financial transactions and so on. So we will be commenting on what is the ruling on cryptocurrencies and what have you, which is not in the book. So, but it is relevant to that topic, which we have, like financial transactions and so on, as well as in the Tahara book, the book of purity and cleanliness and so on. So we have issues like using toilet papers. Is it allowed? Is it not allowed? Is it substitute of water? Can we do this? Can we not do this? It's not in this book, but yes, it is relevant, and we will discuss this and talk about it, as well as other topics. Inshallah, we will try our best to have contemporary, classical, comparative, relevant fiqh, inshallah ta'ala. So this is in general, like the introduction for this book by Mula Ali Qari. So the text is An-Nuqaya, and Mulla Ali commented on An-Nuqaya. And I can tell you from as well my experience in the book that Mulla Ali, rahimahullah, he almost summarized 2 books in this book. So he extensively referred to 2 main books. Number 1, he referred to Sharh al-Hidayah by Ibn al-Humam, which is 9 volumes. So he almost summarized this book in Fath Bab al Inaya in a beautiful way. And this is number 1. Number 2, he, when we talk about hadith, and the references of hadith and the details of the evidences and so on, he referred a lot to Imam al-Zayla'i, نصب الراية في تخريج أحاديث الهداية, again, which is 10 volumes. Depends on the publisher as well, it might be 5 volumes. So, so he summarized as well نصب الراية in this book. So it's a huge work from Mulla Ali rahimahullah ta'ala in this very compact book, let me say. Although it's 3 volumes, it might be 5 or more volumes, but our copy is 3 volumes. It's a huge work Mulla Ali has taken on his shoulders, rahimahullah ta'ala, and he achieved this gem, if you want, useful one, which we are now benefiting from, rahimahullah ta'ala. So yes, Al-Hidayah is one of the top books in the Hanafi school, in the main text in the Hanafi school. So we have as well Kanz al-Daqa'iq, as well as Al-Mukhtar, as Majma' al-Bahrain, Ibn al-Sa'ati, and Mukhtasar al-Quduri. These are major books in the Hanafi school. And Nuqaya is one of the top 4 books in the Hanafi, the summary of Al-Wiqaya. So, and this is the book, as you can see, this is number 1. We have 2 other books here. So we have An-Nuqaya by Sadr al-Din, Sadr al-Sharia, Ubaidullah bin Mas'ud al-Mahbubi, who passed away 747 Hijri. And Rahimahullah, Imam Mulla Ali as well, and all the scholars of fiqh and hadith, and all our teachers and so on. I'll open the floor for your questions. I know probably you might not have that much questions, but this is the introduction, just to show you and introduce for you the book which we will read, inshallah, a selective reading from this book, Fath Bab al Inaya, inshallah ta'ala.
Shaykh, how exciting to be back at the very book that you began your publishing life with and then taught as well, mashallah. So I'm sure it'll bring back many memories, and possibly also how much the world has changed in these 25 years from when you taught it then and the issues that we face now. Clearly they'll be quite different, I imagine, in some ways, and probably not in other ways. So we're looking forward to hearing your thoughts on that. Also, as you were talking, it was interesting to see the parallels between the way you've described how Mula Ali Qari takes apart and examines different rulings and how they've come about and whether or not they're applicable, and brings the hadith into it from the way that we've seen you teach us and do the same, mashallah, in your teaching. So was he an influence?
No, there's no comparison. No comparison between me and the top scholars now.
But do you think that that was an influence on the way that you then approach fiqh and hadith?
To be honest with you, I did learn a lot from Mulla Ali, because I worked on his books for so many years. So my plan, this is again something probably I never said before. In the very beginning, I was very Hanafi, but I wanted to be Hanafi with dalil, not just Hanafi with no dalil and no evidences. So the best way to support this is through the scholars of fiqh in Hanafi school, that they have weight in hadith. And Mulla Ali was on the top of this, if you want, like Imam al-Zayla'i as well, like who's else? Forgot now the name of the book, which I used a lot in my teaching, and it was I'la al-Sunan. إعلاء السنن was one of the topic books in the Hanafi Dalil, if you want. And it was a beautiful journey. Very difficult, I can tell you. I used to have sleepless nights to search for the evidence for one matter in the Hanafi school. For instance, they've mentioned something. They didn't mention an evidence or convincing evidence. And I was not convinced. Okay, this shouldn't be the case. Definitely they have a dalil, but we are not aware of it. So I will go and search again manually. And you can see my bed full of books all around me, right, left, and center, and behind me on my right side and left side. I will be reading all night to find the dalil. So yes, Mulla Ali encouraged me a lot to go through these evidences, and his way was a beautiful way. He wasn't a biased scholar. You do find sometimes biased scholars. But Mulla Ali wasn't like this, rahimahullah ta'ala. So he was a very humble and very critical and with very wide knowledge, rahimahullah ta'ala.
And Sheikh, this humility that you're talking about and this simplicity and zahid, the zahid that he was that throughout his life, or was there a change in his fortunes as we've seen with other knowledge?
Almost, he was like this all the time. His dad told him, I do not want you to be a scholar because you will be standing in front of the doors of the amirs and the sultans. I don't want you to be like that. So he took the advice of his dad. So he never approached the sultan or the amir. He was always living from his work, rahimahullah. And he was a zahid person, rahimahullah ta'ala. So I was saying earlier that I was a very Hanafi person. This was in the beginning. But that paradigm shift happened when I came to the West. And I was, oh my God, it's not anymore about Hanafi or Shafi'i. It's about Islam or no Islam, Iman or no Iman. So this is where I started changing from just being Hanafi to try my best to bring ease through facilitation from any reliable school, just to keep people inside the boundaries rather than outside the boundaries. I don't care if it wasn't in the Hanafi school, as long as it's reliable, authentic, and that's fine. Then I will use to bring people closer and to stay inside the boundaries. So this is another shift in my life, actually.
And that's a very important shift, I think, and very important for us living and trying to navigate the challenges of living here, to be able to access the knowledge from its breadth and not be just following it with tunnel vision. So I think that's hugely important, and I'm very happy to hear of your shift, because that's a shift that's been influential for your students as well in our thinking and in our choices. And Sheikh, what's the meaning of this book, Fath Bab al Inaya?
Al Inaya is care. So for instance, we say he is in Inaya. Al Inaya al Mushaddada. In Arabic, we say intensive care unit. Intensive care unit, we say Al Inaya al Mushaddada. So Inaya, it's care. So Fath Bab al Inaya, it's the opening of the gate of Inaya. Usually it's referring to Allah's Inaya, the care of Allah Azza wa Jal. So the common practice among the scholars that they have to name their books with a rhyming name. Yes, Fath Bab al Inaya, Sharh al Nuqaya. You see, so it has to rhyme. Not anymore these days, but this was the common practice. Fath al Bari, for instance, Sharh al Bukhari or Sahih al Bukhari. So it has to rhyme, like Ibn Hajar al Asqalani and others. Al-Binaya, Sharh al-Hidayah, Al-Imam al-Aini, in his commentary on Al-Hidayah, which is one of the probably longest commentary on Al-Hidayah, 10 volumes.
Okay, and Shaykh, his name, Mula Ali Qari. The Qari means it's from his recitation.
Qari, yes, he used to be a Qari Imam in the mosque, and he's well versed in qira'at and teaches qira'at and so on and so forth, rahimahullah. He has a beautiful voice, has a very deep knowledge in the qira'at. He wrote in qira'at many books as well. And he wrote, I'm not sure, I wish we can find one of these mushafs which he has written in his own handwriting, because they say he used to have beautiful handwriting.
Very, very talented and very hardworking as well, mashallah. So his two mushafs that he used to sell, is it that the price that they fetched was so great that he managed to live off it for a year, off one book?
Exactly, yes. Unless, this is what I'm saying, I wish we can find one, unless it's very high caliber of work, they won't pay that much, yes, that will sustain him for 1 year, you see.
And the fact, Sheikh, that when you were looking for his book, there was only one copy in Mecca, what's the reason for that? Was he not famous until later, or had his works been scattered or not fallen out of print?
To be honest, no, this was a very old book and not very accessible. Not many people know about it. So in publishing world, unless there's something very famous brings money, no one is interested in to bring something risky. So they used to print books that brings money. So this is a new name to them. No, he wasn't that much famous everywhere. No, Mulla Ali wasn't that much famous like Ibn Hajar al-Asqalani, for instance.
Okay, so perhaps the fact that it began to be taught in the Sharia college made it more known in
our work as well being stolen, and just you can find it everywhere now, online and offline and what have you. Anyway,
inshallah, the knowledge will reach far and wide, and will reach out.
Yes, definitely.
Do we have any questions, any comments? Sheikh, you've given us the introduction. Brother Yaqub, you have a question?
I do, if you don't mind. Just a simple one. Shaykh Haytham, will you be revealing to us the methodology that he used? Because I noticed he has some very clear things at the beginning about hadith and hadith mursal and that thing. Is it just will you be going through the way that he decides on what's acceptable and what's good dalil and all that kind of thing?
I'll take you through what he mentioned in his introduction, rahimahullah ta'ala.
Alhamdulillah, barakallah. Thank you, that's great.
Do we have any more questions? And Sheikh, you'll cover that introduction in the next lesson, inshallah?
Yes, inshallah ta'ala.
We look forward to hearing that then. So if we have no questions, that brings us to the end of this session, this beginning of a very exciting journey for us into a new area, a new topic, and we very much look forward to hearing what there is in this fascinating book, inshallah. Jazakallah khair to everyone who joined this evening.
Barakallah fik, Aisha. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. Wassalatu wassalamu ala Sayyidina Muhammad wa alihi wa sahbihi ajma'in. ربنا تقبل منا إنك أنت السميع العليم وتب علينا إنك أنت التواب الرحيم. اللهم احفظنا بما تحفظ به عبادك الصالحين واغفر لنا وارحمنا سامحنا وعافنا وعفو عنا. اللهم إنا نسألك علما نافعا، نسألك عملا متقبلا، ونسألك رزقا حلالا طيبا مباركا فيه واسعا يا رب العالمين. اغفر لنا ولوالدينا ولأزواجنا وذرياتنا وأحبابنا والمسلمين اشفي مرضانا ومرضى المسلمين، وارحم موتانا وموتى المسلمين، وصلي وسلم وبارك على سيدنا محمد وآله وصحبه أجمعين. آمين. الحمد لله رب العالمين. جزاكم الله خير. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.
وعليكم السلام ورحمة الله وبركاته.
سلام شيخ.